What is up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Sunny. For those of you who are new to the channel, if you haven't already, check out my last video. I will be linking it in the description below. You don't have to watch it before this one. Obviously, they're not in chronological order, but if you want to, go watch that one instead. Doesn't matter to me. As long as you guys watch my stuff, that's all I want. Before I start the video, I just want to make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. I will be posting weekly videos. I know at one point I said I was going to post daily, but dude, what was I thinking? I can't post daily. I can't edit that fast. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start posting weekly, specifically on Fridays. Not a specific time on Fridays, but sometime on Fridays. I will figure out the times later. Before I start, make sure you like the video and subscribe to my channel, as well as turn on post notifications. It really means a lot that you guys are actually watching my videos. Even though I'm not getting too many views per video, I'm slowly trying to build this channel into something great. And with your guys' help, I think I'll be able to accomplish that. So thank you so much for watching. Quick disclaimer before I start, I am going to be talking about some sensitive topics today, the main one being bullying. So if that is something you guys can't really handle, if that's something you guys are uncomfortable listening to, I suggest clicking off the video. But if you're okay with it, then of course keep watching. It's nothing crazy, it's nothing brutal, but this was definitely a serious time in my life. I wouldn't make light of this situation. If you are being bullied, make sure you tell somebody about it. If you are experiencing people just treating you really badly wherever you are, whether it's school, whether it's work, get some help if you can't do it yourself, because no one wants to get bullied, man. And if you're a bully, just don't do that. But without further ado, guys, grab some popcorn, grab a drink, get comfortable. Let's get right into the video. This is the bullying experience. So this story takes place in the year 2016, specifically the summer of 2016. AKA the best summer ever. Yes, I have actually talked about the summer of 2016 in the past, like in my simping days video, the first one. But what can I say, man? A lot happened during this time, like both good and bad things happened during this time. So I think it's significant that I add that in. So at the time, little Sunny was addicted to this app called Musical.ly. And now for anyone who's a little bit younger, for anyone who's like Gen Alpha or whatever it is, before TikTok was called TikTok, it was actually called Musical.ly. And it was literally the same app, but just under a different name. And for the most part, the content was pretty different. I mean, instead of like tutorials and funny videos, it was mostly just like people lip syncing to popular songs at the time. People lip syncing to like Sorry by Justin Bieber, or like freaking Hotline Bling or whatever, right? It was stuff like that. I mean, I know people lip sync now, but at the time, that's like pretty much all Musical.ly was, okay? So like I said, Sunny was addicted to this app. He would make like 5 videos a day, trying to make his friends laugh, trying to entertain his little buddies. He meant no harm. He was a golden little boy, right? He had a heart of solid gold. So one day, Sunny decided to make a new video, a different kind of video, where he does a specific dance that was, I don't want to say it was popular at the time, but it was like one of those challenges that you do. And because I was just a follower at the time, I decided to make a video. And for those of you who know me personally watching this video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Since this was like 10 years ago, the video is I don't think it even exists anymore. Like, I don't even think that account exists anymore, but it was really bad nonetheless. I'm not even going to say what it was specifically, okay? But aside from that, needless to say, this video was pretty embarrassing, except he just didn't know it yet because no one really gave him any flack for it. Let's just say it was pretty harsh on the eyes. It wasn't a pleasant sight to see. It just, let's just say if you saw it, your day would be a little less good. Your day would kind of probably be ruined if you saw it, man. And God bless Sunny's little heart, man. This was the first time he had ever had any kind of social media. He had, a somewhat sheltered childhood. Okay, I wasn't sheltered. Like I wasn't one of those weird kids who weren't allowed to watch SpongeBob SquarePants. Because yes, I knew a plethora of kids who are not allowed to watch that. But it is what it is, right? So Sunny was sheltered to a degree. And needless to say, he hadn't really picked up on social cues yet. Like, there was nothing in his brain telling him, hey, don't post that video, you're going to humiliate yourself. Like, he just did what he wanted to do. He had, like, pretty decent self-esteem, I'd say, at the time, right? So, Sunny, being a smart guy, being a smart individual, he decides to post this video. And, all's pretty normal at first. No one really says anything. Nothing happens at all, right? But one day, he's on his phone, and he gets a really, really long comment. right? He sees it pop up on his little, I didn't even have a phone, dude. I had an iPod Touch, the 5th generation specifically, right? I see this little notification pop up on my iPod Touch, and I decide to check it out. So Sonny opens this comment, and to his surprise, you know, his little 11-year-old innocent eyes, he reads like the most vulgar, most descriptive, most violent, harmful message anyone had ever written him, okay? Now, okay, I mean, we were like 11 at the time. It wasn't that bad. I actually kind of remember what was even said, but, and I'm not going to repeat it because I eventually want to get this channel monetized, but let's just say it was pretty harmful, vulgar stuff, you know, being directed towards me. So Sonny reads this and he's immediately in shock. He's immediately embarrassed. He feels humiliated. He feels awful, dude. He wanted to just hide and just run away and just never be seen ever again. He felt awful. But, you know, he couldn't do that just yet. He was curious. He wanted to see what other people had posted in the comment section. So he goes and he finds what other people have commented in the comment section. And sure enough, it's a bunch of other vulgar, nasty comments being thrown at him. People saying that they want to, I can't say what I'm about to say, but, you know, people saying they want to unalive themselves because they watched my video. Just real, like, heinous stuff, you know, 11-year-olds were throwing at me. Like, at the time, like I said, I was kind of sheltered, so I had never really been around that before. And I mean, obviously, like, I've heard much worse than that, but I mean, it was never anything like that being directed towards me, okay? I wasn't sheltered. I'm just trying to get that out of the way. So, you know, Sonny does a little bit more investigating because he was an inquisitive little guy, curious little guy. He checks out who is, you know, writing these nasty comments. And to his surprise, man, they are people from his school. However, I mean, he didn't really know them personally, but he knew of them, right? He knew their faces, right? And it was really embarrassing. And I mean, you know, everything wasn't entirely bad because at the time, Sonny did have a couple of friends who I actually still talk to today. And if you're watching this video, hey there. But he did have a couple friends at the time who were actually, you know, pretty good friends. Like, they backed him up on stuff. So they did, you know, kind of like combat these comments in the comment section. You know, it was like a desperate attempt to kind of, you know, save my dignity, save my self-worth. I had a good little squad behind me, basically. So eventually the main guy writing the comments stops, and I don't really hear or see anything from him after that, okay? But, you know, before I stopped looking at the comments, I got one of their names, and it was the guy who wrote the first really long message. We're going to call him Carl, okay? So Sonny had seen Carl before, not necessarily at school, because the thing is with Carl, he went to Sonny's elementary school for maybe 2 years. So Sonny always kind of knew who he was, but they were never friends. They didn't really know each other like that. They weren't even acquaintances, dude. They just existed in the same time, in the same place, basically. However, now that they were in middle school, Carl was actually going to Sonny's middle school now. And they would be, you know, sharing the same year together, perhaps even having some classes together with one another, right? So, you know, some time goes by. I don't get any more nasty, mean comments, thankfully. You know, the clouds part, and there's light at the end of this story. Kind of. So eventually the summer ends, and Sonny attends his first day of 7th grade, you know. He's having a good time. He's looking fly. He's looking cool. He's got his little shoes on. He's got his little Nike shirt. He's ready to seize the day. He's ready to be the king, the lord of 7th grade middle school. So Sonny ends up getting a class with Carl. However, the two never interact. You know, Sonny thought Carl was going to say something to him this whole year. That never actually happened, surprisingly. And in fact, throughout 7th grade, they didn't really say, I think, one word to each other. So I actually did not talk to Carl one time in my 7th grade year, but I'm just adding him into this part of the story to make it clear to you guys that, you know, like, I knew who he was, he knew who I was, vice versa, right? So for a little bit of background, Sonny had made a friend in his 6th grade year. Let's call him David, right? So David was a transfer student. I forget where he came from. He wasn't a foreign exchange student. I think, you know, it's a pretty important distinction. He just came from another state, but he was new to the school. He had nobody. He seemed like a nice guy. So I decided to befriend him. So, you know, Sonny and David became friends pretty quickly. We both had the same interests: video games, YouTube. We both liked the same interests, right? He wasn't my best bud, he wasn't my best friend or anything like that, but he was a nice kid at first, okay? And over time, let's just say David kind of made a bad impression on people, and by that I mean he broke a piece of Carl's property, pretty much. So what I did not know at the time was that this David guy, despite his appearance, despite him being like a little nerdy short dude, he just wasn't a very nice person, just not a very nice dude. Came from a very privileged family, just kind of arrogant. He just thought he was better than everybody. He thought he was smarter than everyone. He was, you get the picture, right? You get who I'm talking about. So one day we are in PE, and I had the same PE period as David, but we didn't have the same class. We were just in the same period. I feel like that's also an important distinction. So he was in the same period, but he was in a different part of the field or wherever we were outside. But Carl and David had the same class together, right? So one day, I don't know what led up to this. I don't know who hit first or who said the first thing, but Carl and David, they get into it. They start fighting. They start scrapping. Like I said, David wasn't a very big guy. Carl was like 6'2". Okay, no, he wasn't 6'2". In 6th grade, he was probably like 5'10", but still bigger than both David and I. He was pretty big. So, I guess they're fighting, they're scrapping. And obviously David being a little nerd, he wasn't fighting the correct, well, not that there's a correct way to fight, but he was like trying to kick him or something. But then, David being like just a little gremlin, he decides to pull Carl's necklace, which I guess had like a pearl on it or something. He pulls it and he breaks the necklace. The pearl hits the ground and it shatters. It goes everywhere to pieces, reduced to atoms. And what I found out later was that pearl was actually from, I think it was like Tahiti. It was some island, right? But it was a pretty expensive necklace that, Carl's parents had given to him at the time. And Carl was really mad about that. I would be too if my parents got me a nice necklace like that. Who wouldn't be upset? The period eventually ends, and I'm hanging out with David because we had left the locker rooms. We were just kind of walking together, and I don't even think we were talking about the situation that had just happened. But all of a sudden, that group of guys that was friends with Carl, they come up to us and they confront David. And they didn't say anything to me. They didn't know me at the time. I also wanted to make sure you guys know that this happened before the comments. I totally forgot to mention this happened before any comments on that video were made. So they confront David. David actually is kind of roasting him back. He had some zingers. He was pretty good at what he was doing, but we all go home and that's it. But during this time, Carl actually found out that I was friends with David, and because David blocked Carl on all social media, there was no way to reach him. Carl came after me instead. So eventually 7th grade ends and I don't talk to Carl one time. I think, at this point he's probably completely out of my life. I don't have to worry about him anymore. But 8th grade comes around. And eventually on the first day of school, I find out that I am now in a class with Carl. And for some reason, Carl had a whole year to do this, but he decides to make fun of me about that video now. So Carl not only made fun of me for that video to my face, he decided to show it to all the popular kids in our class, making a fool out of me. I was fighting to, get him to turn it off and put his phone away. The teacher got involved, and then I was the one who got in trouble because they made it seem like I was the one harassing them. It was terrible. It was a big mess, right? So the year goes by. He's humiliated every single day. Everybody thinks that he has anger issues now because he's just trying to defend himself from getting embarrassed in front of the cool kids, in front of the popular kids of my freaking middle school. And, we eventually promote and we go to high school. So now we're in 9th grade and Carl was still kind of present, but he wasn't really making fun of Sonny like that now. Carl would make little remarks here and there, but it was never to the point where it was attacks or anything like that towards me. So some time goes by and we eventually become sophomores in high school, and I end up having PE with Carl. But and this is what gets me. I don't know what it was about me back then. I don't know what I did to anyone. I didn't do anything to anybody. He had 2 friends try to fight me in that class, okay? And I'm going to go over that in a second. So the first guy gets up in my face one day and he shoves me. But me being the guy I am at that point, I shove him back 10 times harder. He kind of backed and he was like, hey, chill, I was just kidding. He wasn't kidding. He was ready to throw down. I was even more ready, okay? And the second guy, you know, we were in the locker rooms one day. I was tying my little white Vans. Yes, I was actually tying my white Vans. I had one put on already, and the other one was to the right of me. I hadn't put it on my foot yet. And he walks by, and he looks at me, and he takes the shoe, and he puts it on top of the locker so I can't reach it, right? Kind of like telling me, what are you going to do about it? So I'll tell you what I did about it. I jumped up, I got my shoe. He's walking, I'm running down the locker rooms. I take my shoe, I smack the hell out of this guy with my shoe, right? He falls to the ground. Yes, he literally fell to the ground. His ankle hit one of the locks because he was right next to the locker. He was writhing in pain. It was great. It was sweet, sweet revenge, okay? So now that the first two goons were out of the way, the two buffoons, if you will, the two jokers, it was now time to fight the final boss. So one day, we're in the locker rooms again, and I'm sitting down. I'm putting on my little shoes. And Carl walks by, except he doesn't just walk by. He vaults over me using my head. And what I mean by that is he kind of ran, and then he used my head as like leverage for him to kind of vault over me. Kind of like leapfrog, if you get what I'm trying to say. He basically did that. And you know, him being a, you know, like 6'3", it freaking hurt, okay? It freaking hurt. So me being angry, this is what I do next. So Carl's walking away. I see his back. And what I forgot to mention is that in 9th grade, Carl had a back injury. So what I do next, and I probably shouldn't have done this because I probably could have killed him, but I wanted to get my revenge. I see him walking down this hallway. There's a bunch of people around, and I wanted people to see this. I run at full speed. I think I ran faster than Usain Bolt. I was the Flash. I was running so fast. I ran. I used every ounce of strength in my little 5'6" body because I was 5'6" at the time. And I shove Carl from the back. He goes flying. And when I say he goes flying, I mean he literally went flying down the hall. I pushed him so freaking hard, right? I was ready to throw down. I was a demon. And you know, the only real reason I was even able to push him that far was because I didn't just push him because I was mad about him vaulting over me. When I pushed him, I thought about every time he had made fun of me, every time he had showed the embarrassing video of me to the popular girls, trying to humiliate me. Every time he made me feel awful about myself, I took every memory and I put it into that one final blow. So Carl is in the ground in agony because I had just hurt his back, right? And Carl looks up at me, and he doesn't see the little Sonny he used to tease, the one he used to humiliate in front of all the popular girls. He saw a man. He saw a guy who had no feeling in his eyes. He saw death himself. Nah, I'm just kidding. I wasn't that unhinged, but I mean, I definitely said something out loud, which I cannot repeat because it is vulgar. I basically was like, you want to flip and go, dude, except you can probably imagine what I said. And he was like, dude, what the flip? And then he just gets up and he runs away. And we never fought. I was really angry. I wanted to obliterate him. I wanted to send him into oblivion. I wanted to throw him into the sun. So the PE period starts because this actually happened before the PE period, began. And I walk into class and I see the two friends of his that once tried to mess with me. I looked at them in the eyes. I was no longer the same guy. They saw a demon. I was Musashi from Vagabond. I was crazy. They didn't want to mess with me at that point. I was ready to throw down. I am of the Mexican persuasion. I feel like I can make a joke about this. My socks were pretty high at the time. Not that I was an essay or anything like that, but you know what they say about that? The higher the socks, the downer the foo. And I was pretty much the embodiment of that day. So eventually time goes on and COVID eventually happens because this was like early 2020. And I don't see Carl for a really long time. And eventually we go back to school and I see Carl. But it had been 2 years and there was something different about Carl this time. Something had changed. His appearance was a little off. See, what happened was during 2020, Carl had a spiritual awakening. And by that, I mean he tried different substances. But once again, I want to get monetized one day, so I can't say what I'm about to say. He experimented with some different things. He had a little bit of a lifestyle change, if you will. And I'd say he actually became a much better person. He apologized to me for everything he had done. And we actually became pretty decent friends. He's going to appear in another video I post. But yeah, dude, that was that was the tale of Carl and Sonny. So, moral of the story, guys, if you're a bully, don't do that. And if you're the one getting bullied, try to get some help if you can't solve it on your own. Me personally, I tried to, thug it out by myself, as the cool kids would say. And I think I was pretty successful, but not everyone's as lucky as me. I think I'm a pretty strong person. I think this made me a much better person, having dealt with this. And I'm glad I stood up to my bullies. Not everybody has the privilege of saying that they were able to stand up to their bullies, right? It can be difficult. Trust me, I get it. But moral of the story, don't let people push you around. If you're a bully, just don't do that. Just be nice. It takes very little effort to be nice. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this crazy story from my middle school days. If you enjoyed, leave a like. If you didn't enjoy, that's okay. But hopefully you'll come around and you'll see that I'm a pretty whimsical guy. I make good videos. No, I'm just kidding. But I hope you guys all have a blessed day. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications. I will be uploading weekly. Once again, I will be uploading on Fridays from now on. You guys have a blessed day. Stay safe out there.